A killer came in the dark. The year was 1968. The place was the San Francisco Bay Area. A shadow fell over the quiet roads, lovers' lanes. People felt a new kind of fear. It was a fear of the random. It was a fear of the unknown. No one knew where he would strike next. The attacks were sudden. They were brutal. They did not seem to have a reason. The nights grew colder for everyone. The first known victims were young. They were parked in quiet spots. On December 20th, 1968, David Faraday, Betty Lou Jensen were shot and killed. It happened on Lake Herman Road. The police found few clues. The scene was cold and remote. 7 months later, on July 4th, 1969, another attack occurred. Darlene Ferrin, Michael Mageau were shot in a car in Vallejo. Darlene died. Michael survived to tell the story. He described a man who walked up to their car and just started shooting, saying nothing. The killer then made a call. He phoned the Vallejo Police Department. He used a calm voice. He claimed responsibility for both attacks. The voice was low and monotone. He spoke without emotion. He gave details only the killer could know. He described the weapon used. He described the location of the crime. This was the first time he reached out. It would not be the last. He wanted to be heard. He wanted everyone to know what he had done. The Bay Area was no longer the same. A simple date, a quiet drive, could end in tragedy. The police were on high alert. They patrolled the dark roads. They questioned people. But the killer was like a phantom. He appeared, he struck, and he vanished into the night. The attacks were not connected by personal motives. The victims were strangers to him. This made the case terrifying. The randomness meant anyone could be next. The fear was real, and it was spreading fast. The killer wanted more than fear. He wanted fame. On August 1st, 1969, letters arrived. They were sent to 3 newspapers: the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, the Vallejo Times-Herald. In these letters, he called himself the Zodiac. He proved he was the killer. He included details from the crime scenes. The letters were written in a strange, deliberate hand. They were filled with spelling errors. They were meant to taunt the police and the public. Each letter came with a puzzle. It was a cipher, a block of strange symbols. The Zodiac demanded the papers publish his code. He threatened more killings if they refused. The editors made a difficult choice. They printed the cipher. They hoped someone could break it. The public was now part of the investigation. People across the state tried to solve the puzzle. It was a race against time. The killer had made a game out of murder. A schoolteacher, his wife, Donald and Betty Harden of Salinas, cracked the 408-symbol cipher. The message was chilling. It was a rambling confession. The killer wrote about how much he liked killing people. He said it was more fun than hunting animals in the forest. He believed that when he died, he would be reborn in paradise. He said his victims would become his slaves. The message gave no clues to his identity. It only showed the mind of a disturbed and arrogant man. The letters kept coming. The Zodiac wrote for years. He sent more ciphers. Most remain unsolved to this day. He sent a piece of a victim's bloody shirt to prove a claim. He threatened to blow up a school bus. He mocked the police for being unable to catch him. Threats, boasts, bizarre thoughts. He signed them with a crossed circle symbol. That symbol became a sign of terror. It was the mark of a killer who hid in plain sight. The Zodiac did not always hide in darkness. On September 27, 1969, he attacked in broad daylight. He approached Brian Hartnell, Cecilia Shepard. They were college students relaxing by the water. The man wore a strange costume. It was a black executioner's hood. It covered his whole head. On his chest was the crossed circle symbol. He held a gun. He held a long knife. He told them he was an escaped convict. He said he needed their car and money. He tied them up. He spoke to them calmly. Then his mood changed. He stabbed them again and again. He stabbed Brian 6 times. He stabbed Cecilia 10 times. He then walked calmly back to his car. He drew his symbol on the car door. He wrote the dates of his other attacks. Cecilia Shepard died from her wounds 2 days later. Brian Hartnell survived. He gave police a description of the man's voice and mannerisms. The killer was bold. He was not afraid of being seen. 2 weeks later, he struck again. This time, it was in a San Francisco neighborhood. On October 11, 1969, a cab driver named Paul Stein picked up a passenger. The passenger asked to be taken to Presidio Heights. At the corner of Washington and Cherry Streets, the driver was shot in the head. The killer took his wallet and car keys. He tore a piece from Stein's shirt. 3 teenagers saw the man from a window across the street. They called the police. The police arrived quickly, but a mistake was made. The dispatcher described the suspect as a black man. Officers passed a white man walking calmly away from the scene. They did not stop him. It was likely the Zodiac. The teenagers helped create a police sketch. It showed a white man with a crew cut and glasses. This sketch became the most famous face of the Zodiac. It was printed everywhere. People looked for this man on the street, but the face belonged to no one they could find. A list of ghosts. The investigation became a hunt for a ghost. Police had a sketch. They had letters. They had a voice on the phone, but they did not have a name. Over the years, many men were investigated. Their names became part of the Zodiac story. Each one seemed to fit. Each one also had reasons for doubt. The list of suspects was long. It was filled with strange and troubled men. No single suspect ever had enough evidence for an arrest. One of the most famous suspects was Arthur Lee Allen. He was a teacher who had been fired for misconduct. He lived in Vallejo. He owned the same type of gun and ammunition used in the first attacks. He wore a Zodiac brand watch with the crossed circle symbol on it. A friend told police that Allen had talked about killing people. He even used the name Zodiac before the public knew it, but his handwriting did not seem to match the letters. A survivor of one attack said Allen was not the man he saw. Another suspect was a man named Rick Marshall. He was a silent film projectionist. He lived in the Bay Area during the crimes. He knew how to make ciphers. His handwriting had some similarities to the Zodiac's. He once lived very close to the Paul Stein murder scene. He seemed to fit the profile. But there was no physical evidence to link him to any of the crimes. He was just one of many possibilities. A man whose life story had strange echoes of the killer's. Other names came and went. There was a cartoonist who may have made jokes about the case in his work. There was a troubled man whose own family believed he was the killer. Each new book and documentary seemed to have a new suspect. Amateur detectives spent years of their lives on the case. They looked at military records. They studied maps. They compared handwriting samples. They followed every small clue. But every path seemed to lead to a dead end. The suspects remained just that, suspects. The unsolved question. Today is October 14th, 2025. More than 50 years have passed. The Zodiac case remains open. It is one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries. The letters stopped long ago. The attacks ended, but the questions did not. Who was the man in the executioner's hood? Who wrote those taunting letters? Did he die? Did he move away? Or did he just stop, satisfied with the fear he had created? The answers are lost to time. The families of the victims never got closure. Their loved ones were killed for no reason. They were part of a madman's game. For them, the case is not a mystery. It is a wound that never healed. The public remembers the story. It has been told in movies, books. The Zodiac has become a dark legend, a bogeyman for the modern age. His symbol, his ciphers. He achieved the fame he wanted. New technology offers some hope. DNA testing has been used on the old evidence. Saliva from the stamps, envelopes. So far, the results have not identified a clear suspect. The evidence is old and degraded, but investigators have not given up. Cold case detectives, internet sleuths, they re-examine the files. They look for a clue that everyone else missed, you know?